Hello. I am very happy that you hung in there and waited with us. For those of you who came to join me at 3 o'clock and then we had technical difficulties. And so now we went again at 3:30, and so thank you. Thank you to those who waited and who are still there and have been patient with me. I'm excited about today's sharing because there's a few things I want to share with you today. Remember I said in the last live streaming, if you were there and if you've watched the last one on the Oikos homepage, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that this month of January, the first month of the new year, I wanted to keep the theme on complaining. Now that sounds like a terrible theme to have, but it's intentional because I would like to encourage everybody to take their complaining and throw it out and turn it into thanksgiving. So every time somebody complains and they have a face that looks like that, you know, this sad upside down face, I'm going to give you some ideas of ways that you can maybe help to turn this face around to that, to be a smiley face. So we're going to stick with that theme from complaining to Thanksgiving, and we've been tested in it because everything that we go to do is challenging us. But we have to keep strong and keep smiling, because if we don't, then we are defeated, and we want to be victorious. We want to be conquerors, not defeatists. And so I've been waiting here for a while for this tea, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be nice and strong by sitting here waiting while it was brewing. You see, I made this tea quite a while ago, and I could be sad that I missed out on having a piping hot cup of tea, but instead I'm getting a nice strongly brewed cup of tea, which I'm thankful for. And you might have noticed on the camera, I'm not sure, but it was still hot, still nice and steamy. Plenty hot enough for the throat. And I didn't even have a cozy on the little teapot because I wanted you to see how pretty it is. See? Okay, so for our live streamings for 2019, we're trying, this is our goal and ambition and our hope, that we can do live streaming every week. Okay, but we're going to just press on and believe that that's going to be doable. All right, so how we're going to do the live streamings is, first of all, I'd just like to be here for you to answer your questions. So those people that are starting out, new moms, or even moms that are heading into their second or third or fourth or fifth or 10th year of home educating, and there's just anything that you think that I might be able to support you with or help you with or give you some ideas or help you with any questions you might have now. That's how the main theme of the live stream, the main purpose. However, I would also always like to leave you with something intentional, a specific theme or a specific topic. And as I've already shared, this month's all about Thanksgiving. So that's why I have our little yellow face here. For those of you who have received Oikos orders, I'm hoping you would have got a little yellow face in your package. For those who were getting orders last year, because we had little faces going out in every parcel, and this year again. But I know it's the beginning of the year, and some of you are just waiting for your orders still because we're doing the big catch-up between the festive season when we were closed. So now we're back, and now we're having to process all what happened in that period of time because people could still visit the website and place their orders. On that topic, I know that some people had difficulty with payment on the website, and that was just because some things went wrong. And they're all fixed now. And there's a silver lining, because when something goes wrong, we always look for the silver lining, and the silver lining, we must find it so that we can actually turn what is looking like a catastrophe into something good and cheerful, which is what we've done with the catastrophes of things going wrong with the website, because all of us have grown. We've had to pull together and be patient and understanding and consider each other and all those things. So let me start then with first answering the questions that have already come in. And also I'd like to greet the people that are there. In fact, I'm going to pop our chat and see if there's an Annalise there. Hello, Annalie, thank you for joining us. And Kay, and you like this theme, good. I'm glad you like the theme. Thanks for liking the theme, because I'm feeling quite passionate about it. And you know what's happened, just because I thought let's make the theme this month to be very intentionally about turning complaining into thanksgiving. It's become so, I've become so aware of it more so. You know how it is. Whenever you put your attention on something specific, suddenly you're more and more conscious of it. So I have just been seeing examples all over the place, even more so than before, of people complaining. I've been seeing children's reactions to when a mother tries to correct the complaining, and I've seen the reaction of the child that wasn't positive. So I want to talk to you about that. And I'm saying I'm actually glad that this is the theme, because it's heightened my awareness to it. It's convicted me more to when I catch myself complaining about something, or listening to complaining, or feeling tempted to complain. I have to catch myself quickly and go, wait, no complaining, because complaining is just going to take us down. It's going to make us, we're going to be defeated with complaining, but we can be victorious if we have thanksgiving. So thank you, ladies, for sharing me. Thank you, ladies, for being there with me so I can share with you. And Sylvie's there too. Thank you, Sylvie. I'm wondering if Shirley's going to join us, because I've got my whole faithfuls here. I love it that you ladies are there every time. In fact, you encourage me to come and do live streaming, because we could have just, this is one of those days we could have just said, you know what, live streaming is not working, let's just give up. Well, that's not very victorious, is it? But we didn't, and so here we are. And I'm glad, because now I can sit and talk to Annalie in Canada and Kay in Minnesota, I think. I think you're in the States somewhere, Kay. And I know Sylvie's local, here in about an hour away from us, actually, at the moment. Hopefully going to be closer than that soon. So let me answer this question that came in. It's not to do with the topic of this complaining, but what I would like to do is just answer the questions, any questions, and then end off with this topic, so that when people come onto live stream to ask questions, they can have their questions answered immediately. They don't have to wait for me to share the thing that I'm passionate to share with you today. So let's answer some of these questions. Okay, here's one question that came in. This person wanted to know about taking holidays between lessons. Do we ever take holidays? Do you ever take break from formal studies, for example, holidays and so on? That was one of the questions. So let me answer that question. Do you know what? At this live streaming, I have to be very honest with you and tell you my own experience. I can't answer questions that I have not had a different experience to what the majority maybe are having. So now this question about, do you take holidays? You see, my immediate answer to that would be no, we don't. However, it's not, it could be misleading, that answer. I'll tell you why. Because we didn't take holidays, because we were on the road on ministry tours. So then we would decide, you know what, we're going to leave all our formal studies at home, because this ministry tour, we've got so much to learn about the land, about the place we're going to. We're going to do maths on the road, because we're going to be keeping a little logbook of the tolls and the fuel we're using and the accommodation we're staying at and so on. So that's going to be our maths. It's going to be like practical, daily living, applied maths, instead of sitting with the actual formal maths book. So we have never taken our formal books with us when we've traveled. That's one. The one way to answer that question. The other way is to say that because our circumstances were so unusual in the fact that we had chronic illness, and so if you're spending a couple of weeks dealing with chronic illness, you're not doing formal studies, and you're not having a holiday either. So I'm going to presume that this question is asking about actual holiday times, as in the school system has terms and then they have holiday breaks, holiday time. And the thing is that we intentionally never went and booked and did things in the time that we knew the schools were on holiday, because everything was double the price. And so when schools were having holidays, we weren't, because first of all, we weren't on the school system. And secondly, it was more expensive if we took holidays at the same time as them. But now I've had moms at moms retreats, and this is where I pick these other things up from, not my own personal experience. I just hear other moms saying, but it's a bit difficult because of the fact that our children's friends or cousins or church friends or whoever, community friends, might be on holiday because they are in the school system, and now our children are at home doing their homeschooling, and so now they can't go and play with the children in the neighborhood because those children are on holiday. And so these moms have just decided to stick with the school terms and do the holidays when the schools are doing their holidays. So then that's the choice that they've made. As I've said, that in our circumstances were so different that we didn't need to fit in with that, and we didn't try to, and we couldn't. So it wasn't a decision actually that we had to arrive at as should we do this or shouldn't we, because our circumstances were what they were, and we just had to make the most of them and make them walk in them as victoriously as we could through the valleys, you see. So Sylvie's there again, and I'm just thinking of the fact that when they went through those years of health crisis, I don't think they were really thinking about holidays and if their children are going to take holiday or not, or what. I actually remember having some conversations with Sylvie's family during that time regarding the fact that they were just not getting into any formal studies, and I was encouraging them to relax about that and not be in any way stressed about it, because their focus needed to be what their circumstances were, and the formal studies can just happen another time, because they really can. So I don't know, you see, I can't just answer the question, yes, we take holidays and this is why, because that's not our answer of our personal experience, but it is of many others. I would like, before I go off this topic completely, I would like to actually encourage home educating families to benefit and have all the value of being home educators by going on family holidays and so on outside of high season time, because it's not so crowded, it's cheaper, it's easier to get accommodation, the roads are quieter. There's so many good reasons to go on holiday when everybody else is in school, if you are home educating. In fact, I'm just remembering another little story now of the one time, whenever we went on holidays, road trips and ministry tours, which we attached a few days holiday in the beginning and the end and in between. So we had holiday times like that. And we'd take the children, say, down to the beach, and we were the only people there. We were the only people on the beach. And then that started to change. And we would go out of season, when everybody else is in school, and be on the beach with children of school-going age, and there'd be another family, surprise, of children with school-going age, like, and your immediate thought, my immediate thought was, they must be home educators, or they're foreigners, they're visiting the country, and so we would go up to greet them, and hello, nice to see you, and I would very quickly realize that actually they are home educators. And so this picture of us being the only family at places where we went has changed quite dramatically here in South Africa, that even out of season, it's not uncommon now to bump into other home educators. And before, you were just this rare, unusual person that didn't have their children in school. But now it's just becoming more normal, common, whatever, I don't know. So, Kay, you have confessed here. You said you complained yesterday and you had to ask forgiveness. Well, you see, you actually were aware that you complained and you asked your children to forgive you for complaining. Now, you set an example of that by complaining about something and then saying, look, I shouldn't have complained about that. I'm sorry I complained about that. So now you've taught them something. You've taught them to be repentful for complaining and not just think it's okay. So that's good. You turned an unhappy face into a smiley face. See? And now these moms that are over there, Annelie and Kay, they don't have their smiley faces. These smiley faces, all the South Africans that have used Oikos resources have them, I hope. And now there's others out there that don't have them. So you know what, I'm thinking now what to do about that. But you know what, why don't you get your children to make smiley faces? There's an idea. You see what this is made from? It's made from a discarded disc that was damaged or scratched or something. A discarded disc, sprayed yellow, and a little smiley face drawn on it. Maybe they can make their own smiley faces. Okay, let me see now. Right. I don't know. I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to be doing here. So I will go back to any other question that came in. All right. This mom says she's been jumping from one curriculum to the other because they're not working. Well, I'm not sure that that's a question, it's more a statement, but I'll make a statement back and say, stop jumping from one curriculum to the other and keep it simple and don't do any curriculum for a bit, because it would seem that you're not finding something to help you to settle down. So how about doing no curriculum at all for a while? And just getting to know what's going to work for your individuals, the individuals in your family, by just getting to know what's best suited. As I'm saying that, I'm also thinking that I'm also aware that people are using huge variety of different things to suit the different individuals in their family, and I'm hearing that moms are getting quite exhausted with that too. So I'm going to come back to simplify. Just simplify. Try and remove all the clutter and just make things simple, because there's blessing in simplicity. Okay, I'm going to hop into now this, because it's on my mind and I want to share this complaining Thanksgiving that I wanted to share with you today. And that is to say that I actually witnessed, not long ago, a few days back, a child complaining about something. And so I whispered in the mom's ear, why don't you encourage him to be thankful instead of just, she was reprimanding his complaining. So I said to encourage him to be thankful. And I was quite surprised at the mom's response, because the mom's response was, well, I've tried and he's just not. He's just, going through a bad patch. And I thought, well, then she's also going to go through a bad patch, because she's saying, I tried to help him to be thankful and he's just not being. And the child is continuing to complain. So you see this picture isn't looking like a happy one. And I thought about it. I did spend some time thinking about it, because what I noticed that when the mom tried to get her child to be thankful, the child went from being grumpy and complaining to actually angry. So it's almost like another negative emotion came from the mother trying to help her son to be thankful. And I realized, I sat and I pondered on that, and I thought, now, what would we do and how did we handle that situation when our children were younger? Because I know they had a lot of reason that they could have been complaining people because of the suffering they had. But because it wasn't permitted, even when I say it's not permitted, I understand that a child needs to just have a moan about something sometimes because they're just feeling upset about this. That's different to complaining about everything all the time. All right? So what we would see is our child would be having a bad moment and they'd be complaining about something. Now, I could say to that child, stop complaining and be thankful, and you should be thankful. So now I've just given the child an instruction, which could make the child angry, because I'm saying to them, you can't be upset about this thing, whatever it was. But they actually really are upset. So now I'm not really understanding them and they're cross with me. I'm just painting this picture as what I witnessed, okay? So what to do with that? Well, this is what I used to do with that and would continue to do with that, is I would find out I come alongside the child and find out from them, why are they unhappy? Why are they upset? Why are they complaining about that thing? Let's talk about it. Because sometimes they might not even be able to tell me themselves why they're cross. They might just be cross because there's something bothering them that's not got anything to do with this thing they're complaining about. It could be something else altogether. So it's going to take time. Parenting takes time, right? And so you come alongside the child, try and ascertain what it is that's causing them to be unhappy, and then take it another step and suggest to the child ways that you can help them to turn this unhappy situation into a happy one. And find little ways to do that, fun little ways. Because I have found that it doesn't take much to turn a child, a complaining, unhappy child, into a happy child, into a not complaining and happy child, because you can just do fun little things. I think it was Sylvia that shared at one's mom's retreat that they were going to put this on their fridge, and if somebody was having a particularly bad day, this was going to go upside down in their fridge, and then everybody knew, or on their fridge or in that child's room, whatever, everybody knew that that person was having a difficult day, and so they were all going to work together on trying to help that person then have a, oops, getting this zoom the right way around. There you go. So find little ways that can actually help that person, that child of yours, to find reason to be thankful. Okay. And now those little ways, there can be any number of little ways. And the one little way that worked for our son was balloons. But you know what happened? Our daughter could not stand balloons. She did not want balloons. She did not like balloons. Balloons made her unhappy. And I didn't know why. How's a balloon going to make a child unhappy? Until I got alongside her to try to find out, and she told me they're noisy. Now, who thinks a balloon is noisy? But then we realize it's when they go bang, they give a big fright, they squeak. She didn't like the noise of balloons. She didn't like the fright that they gave her. So when she saw balloons, it had immediate negative. She had immediate negative emotional reaction to that balloon. So obviously, as a mom, I'm not going to give her a balloon to try and make her happy. Because now I know this child well, and I know that balloons, I've got another thing to deal with, and I must help her to not be afraid of balloons. I must help her not mind the bang, the sound that they make, because balloons are going to bang, and it's going to happen. And so I want to help her not to jump out of her skin every time a balloon bangs somewhere. So we have to work with that. And then come back to what actually we started talking about, and that was the thing that was making her unhappy for whatever reason. So this is what happened. I could give my son a balloon because that would make him happy for sure. But then he would take a Koki pen and you'd start drawing on it and it squeaked. And then that would make the other child unhappy. And so what was making him happy was making somebody else unhappy. So then we had to sit together and say, we're not really being kind to one another, because first of all, our daughter must learn to tolerate that, and we need to help her work with that and help it not to affect her so much, because she knows that it's making somebody else happy. And secondly, we need to help our son realize that he needs to be sensitive towards the fact that this noise, this squeaking pen on the balloon, is really upsetting his sister. And so now all of a sudden we're sitting dealing with very, very deep, a very deep matter of how to turn somebody's grumpiness or negative emotion, fear, unkindness, whatever, into something really good. See, so now it's all about a balloon, and it's all about drawing a smiley face on a balloon to try and bring joy into the situation. And it didn't work because the balloon made a noise and the daughter got unhappy, and so on and so forth. So that situation I'm telling you about, it worked for one child but didn't work for others. So now we've got a problem. We need something that's going to work for everybody. However, I can end the story with telling you the good news of it, is our son actually didn't want to draw on the balloon if it made his sister unhappy. He chose not to. He said I was trying to encourage him to be able to draw his smiley face and help our daughter not to be so distressed by it. Okay? But he chose I don't have to draw on the balloon, because he could see that it was causing stress in his sister. So he chose to not do that. So he displayed kindness and thinking of somebody else beyond himself, other than himself. He wants to draw a smiley face on the balloon, but somebody else, it's stressing him. So now he doesn't want to draw a smiley face. So now I'm seeing the fruit of somebody sacrificing something they wouldn't want for themselves because they're considering somebody else. And now there's peace in the home. And now this all might have taken a while, this little incident. It didn't just happen, and it needs to continue to be worked on, because an hour later the next thing arises. And you're in the shops and you tell your daughter, your son, one of your children, they can't have that bag of sweets that they just put into the trolley. And now they're cross and they're grumpy and they're complaining. But why can't I? I want, but mom. And so now you're dealing with that. And you're dealing with complaining, and you could be tempted to go, just be thankful for what you've got. And actually, the reason why I'm using this story, because I actually witnessed this in a supermarket not long ago. Remember I said I've been noticing complaining and how parents are dealing with it. And I noticed this mother giving her child an instruction, like, be thankful and stop complaining, and you're unappreciative, or whatever it was. And that made the child even more unhappy, as you can imagine, because they don't want their mother to think of them as not being grateful. A child doesn't think, I'm going to be ungrateful today. Well, I don't believe so. I don't believe a child wakes up in the morning deciding they're going to have bad behavior towards their mother. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that's in the heart of children. And so I watched the situation of the sweets and the mother trying to get the child to be appreciative, and I thought, the mother's stressed because she's got good reason why she's not buying those sweets. Maybe she knows it's not good for the child. Maybe they don't have the budget for it at the moment. Maybe she's being careful and a good steward and all these things. And now she's got the stress of this child that's complaining. And then she's feeling badly maybe about not being able to give him what he wants. And then he's cross with her because she said he doesn't appreciate or whatever. I just saw lots of negative emotions. And I thought, now what can be done with that situation? You know, the mother's just telling him to be appreciative, but if she took that whole situation and she did with it like what I explained, shared earlier with the balloon, and you did it by turning that child's thinking away from, I want the sweets, to understanding the reason why it's better for him not to have, and his not having can actually be a blessing to somebody else, because he can be thinking of others that don't have, because his mother's taught him about that. And so she's now putting the seeds of kindness and consideration and compassion into his heart, rather than selfishness or greed. I'm using strong words, I know. But you see, you're plucking out those weeds and you're planting good seeds. I think I remember mentioning that to Kay, was it, the last time, about that book, Weed with an Ill Name. And it just seems to be the theme of this month, this book, because of the fact that I'm talking about pulling out the weeds and planting the good seeds at the start of the year, so that you will not be complaining people, that I will not be a complaining person, that we will not be complaining people for the Lord. We will actually delight Him with being joyful and having thanksgiving. Okay, and the other ladies that are there would have seen that Sylvie has confirmed that, yes, it was her that told me about the smiley faces visually and how it's working for her children. Fantastic. And Annalise, I've got a question about testing. Should I be teaching my children how to do quarterly tests and exams? You know what, Annalise, that's another question that maybe you're asking the wrong person, but we didn't do tests and exams. Our test was life and living and getting through the valleys, and we didn't do tests as in, okay, it's the end of the first term. We didn't have terms and quarters and all those things because we were home educating, and so we didn't go by the calendar, the school calendar at all. It didn't exist for us. And so when it came to tests, when our child had finished a particular maths book, got to the end of it, there was tests all the way through that maths book. The curriculum we use is very, very parent-friendly, student-friendly, considering that the parent is the tutor and not an external body or source that is testing that our children have learned. It's the parent that is checking that the children are learning. And so all of the resources that Oikos, when I say I'm talking about the Oikos resources, and I know that you're in Canada, so I will tell you the name of the maths resource I'm referring to, and that's Maths You See. We've only used that, and so I don't know why that phone made a funny noise, because I put it on airplane, I think, but anyway. So built into Maths You See are tests all the way through at the end of each module, or everybody's got a different name for it, you see. So I don't know what the right vocabulary is and wording is for the different areas. But suffice to say that at the end of the book there was a little certificate on the last page that said, well done, and you put the child's name, and you finished whatever the book was, and now you can move on to whatever the next book is. And so they had learnt multiplication, and so well done, you've done your multiplication and you've completed your gamma book. That's the name of the level of the book for Maths You See that is focused on multiplication. And then the one after that is division. No surprise, once you learn to multiply you can move on to division. And so when the child has completed Gamma, they move on to division. Now, in our family circumstances, it was such that some years very little could be done because of chronic illness in any member of the family. And other years or months or weeks, a lot could be achieved in formal learning. Now, I'm not going to suggest that's a good idea, because I did find that when it came to formal learning, especially learning where you went concept upon concept and it had to be systematic, there was back and forth, which was difficult, because you would, you get your child to a certain point and then you would have this long break because of illness. Then you'd come back to it and you'd have to redo some revision and go back a bit before you could go forward. And I did find that difficult to go back and forth and back and forth. I would have preferred the consistency of being able to, I'm talking about as a person, as the mom training her children and teaching them. It would have been easier on me if it could have just been consistent. And so that's what I encourage moms to, with the formal lessons, just to try and be consistent, because it's helpful. Well, I'm saying it's helpful just because I believe it would have helped me, but I don't know. I adapted to what our circumstances were, and in the end, I think sometimes moms are inclined to think that their children have difficulties that they don't actually have, and it's the mom that has the difficulty. So maybe it was okay for my children that we didn't do maths all that time, because I would never have given them a maths lesson when they're lying in hospital. And so maybe when they recovered from that and we had to go back a little bit just to revise, to catch up, and maybe it wasn't such a trial for them. Maybe the trial was more for me. So I think that's also just something else to think about. And that is, consider whether the thing that's troubling you is actually something that needs to be troubling you. So, Annalene, I must say that tests and exams wasn't something that we put into a time frame. When the end of the book came, we made sure that our student was ready to move on to the next one. And as I say, I can quite honestly tell you that we would have spent 3 years just trying to get through 1 year's worth of resources or workbooks or whatever. And then another year we would have done 2 years worth of workbooks, formal studies, in 1 year. So that's how it was for us. And you know what? By the time the children were adults, they were educated, not just educated, well educated in the formal way, sense, academic, but also, even more importantly, spiritually, and according to their characters. They had time for their characters to be molded, and we could spend time on that. So don't think I can ever do a last room without mentioning Konos, because of the fact that was the heartbeat. Obviously, this is the foundation, this is the rock, the Word of God, teaching our children in the Word, and then practicing it with Konos. So that was number 1, number 2, and the rest was number 3. See, so formal studies weren't in the front of everything. They had to wait, take their place. Okay, let me see here now. Any more questions? Oh, that's nice. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've used Gamma and you use Apologia Science, and they have quarterly tests. Oh, now you see now. I'm not supposed to talk about what curriculum providers would think that the students should be doing with their resource, because I actually didn't write Apologia Science, and they put those quarterly tests in there for whatever reason that they thought was part of the program. But what I can do is I can tell you how we used it. What we did is we used Apologia for that step of teaching them independence, to be independent and responsible for their own learning. Because up until that point, because we didn't have the young levels of Apologia when our children were young, they hadn't been written yet. But when the senior sciences came out and they came on our path, I did a test me about that on the website. It's called Title Test Me's, and I talk about how the science came onto the Oikos path, if you want to know more about that. So when we had that, what I would do is I would give that science module, I think that's what it's called, to one of the children and ask them to work through it. And if they needed help, I was there for them. And I would check that they were getting on with it. You know, it was one of these sort of check that they've been studious and put some sort of formality into place and get them to be responsible for their own study. And then at the end of that, there was a solutions and tests. What was it called? Well, you would know. At the end of the module, there's it's what you're calling here quarterly tests. I would take that, and I had the parent book that had the solutions tests and answers in it. And I would see what the student had been doing through that module, and we would sit and talk about it. So let me think of an example. Now I have to pull from the memory, see, so I'm going to probably mix it all up if I try and come up with an example. Suffice to say that what I would do is I would read the question that I suppose is the test question, and then I would hear from them what they knew, what they'd understood of that, and I had the answer in front of me. So I would know as a parent what I was hoping to hear from them. And if they go, well, I don't know about that, then I would go back into the module in that section, and then we'd look at it together, and I'd talk about it, and they'd talk about it. So it became more a dialogue thing. It became more than them sitting writing a test. However, it depends on your individual child, because, some individual children, they like to do the test, don't they? They like to have the test and look at the question and get the answer and mark it and get a mark. But I really have experienced that mostly coming from the parent or from the child's experience from being in school. Families that haven't been exposed to that, their children aren't saying to the parents, I need my test, where's my test, I want to do a test. See? So that's why I'm asking parents to think about it a little bit differently. Think about the child. Oh, it's a study guide. Thank you, Annalie. I knew it had some word other than test. It's called the study guide. That's the thing that we used to go through, that I used to go through with them. And I loved it. And you know what we used to do, actually? I used to use that for when we went in the car. So if we were going on a journey, I would take the solutions and tests with me from the study guides from the science book that they were using. And it would literally just be like topics of conversation that we would have in the car while we were driving. We'd be talking about whatever it was that they had been learning about in science. And that's how I used it. And I don't know if other people use it like that. And I don't know if the authors intended it to be used like that, which makes me think of 180 days around the world in 180 days. We used it very differently to what I know Sherry intended it for, because I met Sherry, the author, at one of the conventions in the States, and I told her how we were using her amazing curriculum and how much we loved it, and she never even wrote it with that intent of it being used in that way. So you see, you just use a resource in a curriculum for how it works for your family and for your children. Some children are going to be very stressed to do tests, and their result is going to be very poor, and it's not going to be an indication of what they know. It's going to be an indication of their stress. And another child's going to thrive on tests and love getting a high result. And now I hope, and I won't mention my family member's name, I was going to hope she doesn't mind if I mention this, but I'm just going to keep it general and tell you I have a family member that on paper and according to tests and results is brilliant, just straight A's for everything. And she'll be the first person to tell you that she's not very clever. She says, I'm not very clever. She says, I just remember things well. So you see, you get somebody else that does very poorly in tests, but they really have an elephant memory of everything. And then you get others that just learn quick and they just get it and it's fast, and their test results are fantastic. But ask them in 2 weeks' time the same question that they had in that test. They might not remember it. They might not even know what you're talking about. So please, whoever's watching now and after, please think about this test matter differently maybe. Give it some thought that's other than what's in your head regarding your experience of tests and how you think it must be. Jamie has been putting these links here as I've been talking about them. That is so clever. Title test me's. Did you put this title test me's? Did you put the one about science there, that link? Or was it just to the title test me's in general? Not the science one specific. So Annalie can go and watch a science title test me if she wants to by going there to that link. So Annalie is saying that she has a concern if they were to change and we had to put the children back in school, then they would suffer. If I knew that we would never need... your children aren't going to suffer if they have to go back into school. I just want to say that categorically. Because you see, if you were a neglectful parent, which you're not, because you're sitting here and live streaming and you're asking all these questions that are 100% based on the concern for your children, so that makes you a concerning, responsible, caring parent. Because you're that, if your children ever had to be put into a school system for whatever reason, think about the fact that they've been at home, they've been nurtured, they've been loved, they've had one-on-one tuition, and they are educated. So now let's say they now have to be tested to go back in the school. This is what normally results. A school normally has to test numeracy and literacy. Okay? And numeracy and literacy, a child that's been home educated with one-on-one tuition and hasn't had to be in the classroom environment is very generally far ahead of their level of age in a school system. However, if you've got a special needs child, it's not going to make any difference if the child is 10 and hasn't been able to do their multiplication book yet because they've got a particular learning difficulty. It doesn't make a difference if they then go to the school and they can't fit into that level because they've got a specific special kind of learning difficulty. You see, so now it's not relevant whether they're actually going to fit in at the level because that is that particular individual's speciality. That's their special uniqueness and that they can't actually do the level that's required of them from that school. And then it would be understood like that and they would be slotted into the level or the situation that fitted and worked for them because they have special needs. But then you've got on the other hand, where your children are just going through the schooling at home education, working through the material, and now suddenly something happens that causes you to need to put them into a school system. Even doing Math UC, which is focusing on one concept at a time, which means that maybe they're 10 and they haven't actually done a higher level of what they're doing in the school. Let me use an example. Let's say in the schools in grade 1, 2, and 3, they do addition, subtraction, and multiplication, right? And let's say the child's 6, 7, 8 years old and they've done multiplication. But with the child at home, you've only gone as far as the end of subtraction. Because that child was just doing their math slower, because you as the parent were seeing to it, you're not going to jump your child from addition to subtraction and into multiplication before they're ready, because parents don't do that. They're not going to do that intentionally, push their child in the deep end of the swimming pool and tell them to swim when they know that they haven't learned to swim yet. Okay, so basically, even if that child went to the school, Annalie, and you found that the 8-year-olds had already done multiplication, they would have only skimmed across the surface of multiplication. They won't have the deep understanding and grasp of it as your child would have addition and multiplication by that stage. So now your child is faced with multiplication in the school. But it's okay because their foundation is so solid. One, they're going to pick up the other quite quickly. Two, if there's things in that curriculum that they are having a little struggle with, it's not going to take them long to quickly put the pieces together, especially that they were home educated. So you're going to be okay with you never need to worry again about if you had to put your children back in school. I don't think it's unlikely. People don't generally put their children in school after they've been home educated. But if circumstances were such that was the case, there is no worry. The other thing is you might be thinking, but what about the science and what about all the other social studies subjects? That again is not tested. I haven't yet heard of, right, you want to join our school, so did you learn about volcanoes or earthquakes? And let's say, for example, the mother at home hadn't even done either of those, but the curriculum from the year before had volcanoes studies in it, and you had neither done volcanoes or earthquakes, or you had spent time on studying some other aspect that wasn't in their curriculum. It doesn't matter. Do you know why? Because it's general knowledge. It's general knowledge. It's what's in their curriculum for that year, general knowledge-wise. And the next year, there's some other things. It's not one that builds upon the other. It's like modules of knowledge, of general knowledge. So I don't think it's a problem. And not only do I not think, I actually almost want to assure you, I can't make guarantees because I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but Oh, you're saying I described exactly where they went from subscribing and then the schools expected them to know multiplication. What schools? They suffered maths until I brought them home. Why would the school... I don't understand, because maybe it's in Canada, it's different. I don't understand why the school has expectation of them if you're home educating them. What's that about? They went from them. Okay. But they were suffering in maths until you brought them home, and they're not anymore. See, there you go. So now there's your answer. They were struggling, they're not anymore, so if they went back into that system, it would be better. It can't be worse. Private school. I'm not following that. Okay. Jamie, you know what we said? We said we were going to try and keep our live streaming to half an hour, and it's already been 45 minutes. So I think I'm going to have to... I would like to carry on chatting to the ladies. I wonder if Sylvie's still there. Oh, I see. You put them into school because of family. You see, it does happen. And then you took them out again. It does happen that sometimes there's circumstances that cause one to have to put them back in school. So I'm just thinking now, you put them back in school and there was a problem, and so now you're concerned that if you ever had to put them back in school again, you might face a problem again. Is that what you're saying? Because you see, I'm saying you're not going to have a problem, but I haven't done this, what you've done. I haven't had children at home that went to school that came home. I haven't done that. So I'm here to encourage you to keep your children at home, and I'm here to encourage you to not put them back in the school and to spend time in teaching them in the Word. And I hope you've got Picture Smart. I hope you've got a wonderful Bible curriculum to teach your children, because that just do that. Just spend time in the Word. You've been through a family crisis, so spend time in the Word with your children, giving them life. Don't worry about the formal. It's going to sort itself out. I'm talking to you, and you are listening to somebody that has every reason to tell you that I have been very afraid of our children not being educated, because we went from one health crisis to another. But instead, I can tell you that, first of all, I didn't have time for fear, because fear was just going to cripple me. I had to choose to not have fear and to walk by faith instead. I made that choice. And because of that, our focus became this. And because it became His Word, and that being our absolute priority all the time, every day, the other things were not our priority. As I've shared, they were last in line. But yet today I have got educated adult children. They're still my children, but they're adults. And they're not uneducated people. They're educated and equipped for adult life. But the best part of their equipping is not that I can say that they got to the end of their maths and their language and they did so well, blah, 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 all of them. It's character. And it's the fact that they overcome. Overcomers. They're walking victoriously. They're following the Lord. Got a beautiful daughter that is happily married, and a wonderful wife and homemaker. To me, there we are. There it is. That's enough. I don't mind if she struggled with her maths or not at this stage. I don't think God minds. I don't think it was about that. I don't think it was about her struggles when she was learning. I think it's about how He can use her today in her adult life, and that she had the best childhood that we could possibly manage for her in her crisis, in her suffering. So you see, that's what I'm here to tell you. So, and Sylvie? Sylvie's agreeing that schools will look at maths and reading. They're not worried about social studies. Oh, yes, there you go. Well, I'm glad you confirmed that, Sylvie, because it's what I've heard. I can't put it in stone and say it's a fact, because don't live in fear, joy. Leave the crisis behind you. Oh, that's so sweet. Sylvie's going to pray for you, Annalie. Well, I will too. And Annalie, you know we've got a series on fear, hey, on the website. It's the top 10 fears. If you're afraid of anything, go and watch those top 10 fears. But I'm going to stand with Sylvie on this one. I love those words, Sylvie. We say, leave the crisis behind. Put it behind and move on victoriously. And take from that crisis all those treasures you found. Because I know how many treasures we find in that valley, and we can carry them with us, but we must leave the negative and the rest behind us. I agree with you, Sylvie. Oh, a mini mom's retreat. That's a good idea. We're having mini mom's retreats on Wednesday afternoons. Okay, so let's say I'm going to try and see you again next Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Let's hope it works at 3. And thank you for waiting until 3:30. And please share it with others, that if others want to join our mini moms retreats. And Sylvie, you are local, so I do hope to see you at another moms retreat soon. I'm sure I will. I think you're going to be a regular visitor of our moms retreats this year. And I'm quickly whizzing up and down here to see if Shirley from England joined us today. It doesn't look like she was there. So ladies, thank you for joining me. It was lovely chatting with you. I know that I haven't answered all the practical questions that have been coming in, because you know what I've been doing? I've been telling people, go to live chat on the website if you want to know about your order or the payment or the tracking or the book that you're trying to get that won't load in your basket, all those, I was going to say mechanical, what do you call them? Clerical questions. We do have a live chat on our website for that. So if you're wanting those kinds of quick answers to difficulties you might have, then please go there or email help@Oikos family. Or if you would like to join our mini moms retreats on Wednesdays, then please join us on live streaming and let others know about these things that I've just mentioned. Thank you, thank you. I love being with you. Thank you for being there with me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Keep smiling. Bye for now.